I'm going to introduce a really dear friend, a person that started the first caregiver conference. And our personalities are pretty much alike. We say we're going to do something and we don't plan it, we just do it, which is pretty cool to have that person that you're like, oh, you're like my male version, and he's like, you're like the female version, but I think we would kill each other if we lived together. That's how. But Jeff Parker, I just want to welcome you here. Jeff has been, a caregiver for 8 years for his wife. She passed away 4 months after our first caregiver conference, and it was back in 2015. He's retired Air Force officer with 26 years of active duty service, now serving as CEO and president of Quantum Research and Analysis. Did I say he's retired too? He's an advocate for persons with dementia and their caregivers. He helped organize the first Caregivers Conference in 2015. I just want to welcome you, Jeff, and thanks for being here and supporting. After his wife passed away, he moved to Tennessee. So we lost him for a little bit, and I hope that he's going to come back. I think I've heard some rumors there. So come on up, Jeff, and tell us your story, and I hope that through Jeff's story, somebody can get a little bit of something that will help you make decisions for your loved one. Come on up.
Well, I don't have a script. I guess I've got to stand in front of the microphone. And I hate this too. I like to get out and move around. Well, I'll be quick. I don't have a formal speech per se, but I can speak from experience. Anyway, can I, hello? You there? You gotta be smarter than the microphone. No, they do. They activate it. Oh. Anyway, let me have a show of hands of everybody can everybody hear? Yes. Everybody who is a non-professional caregiver, stick your hand up. So we can kind of identify. And then that's not to exclude the professional caregivers. You have tools and resources. And I want to mention that because I quickly want to tell my story, then you can ask any question you want. As Maria mentioned, I spent 26 years on active duty. I retired, went back to work for the Air Force family, and spent 10 more years. Ruth and I lived in Germany. We came back to the United States in 2007. She started acting a little bit, maybe I just finished this. Anyway, she started acting a little bit unusual, and I don't want to go into all of this, but we eventually, I remember in August of 2009, walked out of the doctor's office after extensive body of testing, and Ruth was diagnosed with frontal temporal dementia. Well, you can imagine that my world was devastated. Didn't know what to do. I didn't even know what I didn't know. There's a whole body of literature out there, and Eileen did a good job of that. From the Alzheimer perspective, I knew everything there was about Ruth's disease. My oldest daughter is a nurse, so we were familiar with that part of the disease, but what I wasn't familiar with is what is a caregiver? What do I do? When I walked out of the doctor's office, I had an 8-page diagnosis on Ruth and how I could take care of her. I had nothing what to do with a caregiver. Didn't know, couldn't even spell caregiver. What do you do when you're a caregiver? So kind of the short title of this is, Where There's Help, There's Hope. For about 1.5 years, I had absolutely no help and no hope. And a lot of it was because you don't know what you don't know. I didn't know that all these trials and tribulations that you go through. All the things that Eileen talked about, I didn't know that. My wife went through all that. She was she used to get picked up at the airport, so she thought, and go met George Clooney and Angela Jolene. That was very real for her. I remember one Saturday, I'm sitting downstairs, Ruth comes out, dressed, all ready to go, and I said, Ruth, where are you going to go? I'm going down. I'm going to get picked up. I'm going to pick up the diamonds in the hotel. Wow. Anyway, I say so I'm in a doctor's, and we had appointment after appointment after appointment. Who all knows that? I mean, when you take somebody as a caregiver, so many appointments, so many doctors, and that's good. Thankfully, we walked into one office, and there was a young lady, the receptionist. She says, you know, you look like you could use this. And it was a handout for then in the part of Washington, D.C. I lived in for a caregivers conference. It was their 33rd. And I went to that caregivers conference, and it's like the shingles fell off. Then I finally understood what I didn't know. So I went to like 7 or 8 of them, and of course Maria told you the rest of the story. But my point is, there's a lot of help out there. And particularly if you're in the early stages of this caregiving business, like I say, I struggled for about a year and a half. And keep in mind that my oldest daughter was a nurse. My next oldest daughter lived right up the road from me, and she used to come down. She lived up on the other side of Baltimore, Maryland. She would come down and stay with me. And of course, my daughter Sharon, who's out here today, my youngest daughter. You know, I had a whole lot of help, but we just all struggled. We all struggled. Then there's the caregivers aspect of this business. Well, while all this is going on, and you know, I could probably preach and I could talk for days. So we have our grandchildren involved. So, you know, on one hand, these diseases, Alzheimer's, dementia, MS, all the neurological diseases like that, they're devastating. Not only are they devastating to the person, they're devastating to the spouse. They're devastating to the family, to my 4 daughters. I've got 4 daughters. I have 10 grandchildren. Only 5 of them were around in the dementia days. Some of my grandkids, they know Nanny before she got sick. Some of my grandkids don't know Nanny other than sick. Some of the grandkids, unfortunately, never met Nanny because she passed away. So, and you wrestle with that. I remember Sharon, her youngest, Dad, what Cameron wants to know when Nanny's coming home. This is after she passed away. And how do you answer questions like that? And I throw that out there to say, there is an answer to it. There's help out there. So come to things like this. Come to support groups. Now, as quickly as I say that, I also realize that for the caregiver, and I've been there, I've done that, Ruth had frontal temporal dementia, and as her disease progressed, she got more childlike. So here I am, and Ruth was diagnosed at 55 years old. I'll be 65 next month. So you can imagine, up until about 4 years ago, when Ruth was, I essentially had a 5-year-old at home. I mean, we sat and watched Disney Junior. We watched Doc McStuffins, and we did all those things, and that's really tough. But my point is, from a caregiver's perspective, you know, a lot of folks said, "Well, get on the phone, go do this, go do that." Well, try to get a 2-year-old, set them down there, and say, "You behave. I'm going to get on the phone for 10 minutes. I'm going to get on the internet for 10 minutes. I'm going to go do this." I remember one quick time. You know, when you go to, Sharon, what's the name of that Bath & Beyond where you get all that nice soap? Bath & Body Works. So I loaded up on that, and I learned the hard way. Put some out in the kitchen. I was on the phone. It's only going to take 2 minutes. Ruth will be fine. Ruth's out in the kitchen, doing the foam, putting it in her hand, eating it. She thought it was whipped cream. Kind of, again, to the point, anyway, I say that because I know what it's like to not be able to have 5 minutes to go do those kinds of things like that. I was also very fortunate. I could send Ruth went to Maria's Adult Day, and this is not a plug for Maria's Adult Daycare Center, although it is a plug. I found out about that, so without rambling, I just want to say, without help, there is no hope. Well, there is hope. There is hope, and I think one of our speakers later on today, he'll get to that. But anyway, you got to get help. Avail yourself to conferences like this. Listen to other people. I was at the hotel this morning. I got on the elevator, was going back upstairs. You know, course, I talk to anybody that won't move, stand there and listen to me. I said, hi, how you doing, so on and so forth. Well, she said, well, I said, what's the matter? Well, I'm in town. I'm a long-distance caregiver, kind of to your point. She lives in North Carolina. I think it's her aunt or her uncle is down here, and she's been down here the last day and a half trying to get him into assisted living. But my point is, and I said, really? I'm getting ready to go to a conference. I'm involved with this. She said, boy, I wish I could come with you. But my point is, because a lot of caregivers can't come to these conferences. Maria does, you still do the daycare thing, right? In other words, but tell your friends about these kinds of things. Give them information. Give them, you've now been through it. You're on my side of it. So carry that throughout the day, throughout the week. Remember that idea that where there's help, there's hope. I'm telling you what, and I think most of you, I remember years ago I bought a yellow van. In fact, it was about 40 some years ago. I never realized how many yellow vans there were until I bought one. How many, once you had a relative, a spouse, a sister or a brother, or even a friend that you found out had Alzheimer's, dementia, MS, then everybody you run into got it, knows somebody, done that, been there. I couldn't believe it. Like I say, this morning on an elevator. I now live in Tennessee. I'm working with this lady to build us a website, to work on our website and our Facebook for Florida Caregivers Network. Oh, by the way, we're going to start one in Tennessee, and we're going to start another chapter right up the road in Citrus County. So we're going to grow. And but anyway, these people are everywhere. I don't do anymore. I carry handouts everywhere I go. But anyway, any quick questions for me that I can answer in my short amount of time? I'm certainly no expert. I'm no professional, but I've done that. I've been there, done that. Well, all right.
Thank you, Jeff. He will be around all day, so if anyone wants to share experience with him, and he's a great guy. Not because he gave me a plug, he's just a great guy. But we're going to take a 10-minute break and go ahead and visit our sponsors. I don't know if there's some refreshments out there, and we'll come back